Good. It worked. It worked. Thank y'all for y'all's patience. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to pray and then we will begin chapter 23. What I like to do as we've been reading through Psalms is I'll read a summary of the psalm and I will just read through the psalm, and that's just how we've been doing it. So, dear Lord, thank you so much for another day. Lord, thank you that this live was able to start. We didn't have any more technical issues. Lord, I just thank you for what you're doing through this mornings with Jesus. Lord, I pray that you continue to um, just send people this way so that we can read your word together. And Lord, even if they can't make it, that they will get a desire to seek you daily in your word and grow in their understanding of who you are. Lord, I continue to pray that you send people across our path that we can share the gospel with, that you will give us a boldness and that we won't be afraid to speak the truth. Lord, I ask that you bless today. Um, and I ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to start in Psalm 23. So the summary of this is, and I just want to, I did this yesterday. I think this is really helpful for Psalms, is to read about the different types of Psalms. So there's these laments, which the primary function is to lay a troubled situation before the Lord. And those typically will end with expressing confidence. We see a lot of the Psalms, like David is just lamenting to the Lord, but then he ends by saying, this is my confidence in the Lord, in giving praise. There's hymns of praise, there are hymns of thanksgiving, there are hymns celebrating God's law, there are wisdom psalms, and those take themes from the book of the wisdom books: Job, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. Songs of confidence, royal psalms, which those vary from being prayers, some are thanksgivings. All of them relate to the Messiah, either in their pattern or by portraying the king's reign in such a way that the Messiah will completely fulfill. Historical psalms, and then prophetic hymns. So those are the different types of psalms. We are still in the first book of Psalms, so there's 5 different books. So 23. This hymn is usually classified as a psalm of confidence in the Lord's care. It uses 2 images: the Lord as shepherd who cares for the sheep, that is the first half, verses 1 through 4, and the Lord as host who cares for his guest, and that is verses 5 and 6. These images would be familiar from everyday experience, but they also evoke other ideas common in the ancient Near East, with the deity as shepherd of his people and the deity as host of the meal. In worship, the faithful celebrate God's greatness and majesty, and when they sing this psalm, they see his majesty in the way he personally attends to each of his covenant lambs. He is the shepherd for Israel as a whole, and in being such, he is the shepherd for each faithful Israelite as well. So, this is a very popular chapter, this chapter 23. So the title of it is The Lord is My Shepherd, a Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, for your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Um, so again, that verses 1 through 4, it shows the Lord as a shepherd. Um, he's providing. Uh, he is leading. He is restoring. Um, Even though you're in the valley, you can take comfort in His protection. Um, and then then verses 5 and 6 is the Lord as a host. So um, it is this image of, there's a table and He's anointing you with the oil. Um, and then I underline that last verse 6 before, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Just goodness. Here, let me read this. Some have argued that the image of shepherd and sheep is still present here in verses 5 and 6, but the mention of a table, of putting oil on the head, the cup, and the Lord's house all show the psalm now describes the faithful person as God's guest at a meal. The enemies are powerless to prevent the enjoyment of God's generous hospitality. Goodness and mercy are the assurance for the faithful that God has showed His grace upon them. For a non Levite to dwell in the house of the Lord is to have ready access to the sanctuary for worship. Forever is literally for length of days. This may simply be another way of saying all the days of my life, but it's more likely to be meant as for days without end. So that is verse 23, or I'm sorry, chapter 23. Chapter 24. This psalm seems fitted for some liturgical occasion, perhaps one that celebrates the way that David brought the ark of the Lord into Jerusalem. This would explain the interest in God's presence in Psalms 24, verses 3 to 6, and addressed to the gates in verses 7 through 10. The psalm asserts the astounding idea that the God who created and owns everything is the very same God into whose presence the faithful worshiper enters because of the covenant with Israel. Such is the privilege of being Israel, and such too defines their mission, namely to bring God's fame to all His creation and especially to all mankind. So here in chapter 24, the title of this is The King of Glory, a Psalm of David. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. For He has founded it upon the seas and established it upon the rivers. Who shall ascend the hill of the Lord, and who shall stand in His holy place? He who has clean hands and a pure heart, who does not lift up his soul to what is false, and does not swear deceitfully. He will receive blessing from the Lord and righteousness from the God of his salvation. Such is the generation of those who seek Him, who seek the face of the God of Jacob. Lift up your heads, O gates, and be lifted up, O ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who is the King of glory? The Lord, strong and mighty, the Lord, mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O gates, and lift them up, O ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory. Wow. So this is, I guess this is what they meant when they were saying that this may be a time where this was sung when the ark was being brought in and they were like welcoming the Lord. So this first part, verses 3-6, who receives blessings from him? This section reminds the worshipers of a recurring theme in the Old Testament. Although every Israelite may attend worship at the sanctuary, not everyone will really receive blessing or would genuinely enjoy the status of righteousness. God expects his people to embrace their privileges from their hearts and to show that in their behavior. And then the last part, lift up your heads, O gates. Readers may imagine this as the call and response before the gates of Jerusalem. Verse 7, the procession bearing the ark announces God's presence in the ark, seeking entry into the sanctuary. So that was chapter 24. Chapter 25. I love this chapter. Teach me your paths. This is a lament in which individual members of worshiping assembly ask God for help in their various troubles. While it expresses faith in God's kindness towards the faithful, it does not end in the confident way of most laments. So most laments, like we talked about in the beginning of the live, they start expressing their trouble, but then at the end they are expressing confidence that the Lord is going to deliver them. And so this particular one does not end in that way. The psalm also includes penitential elements where the worshipers confess their sins and pray for forgiveness. As the notes will show, there are echoes of Pentateuch promises here, showing that the godly in Israel were to view the Sinai covenant as a gracious one. As the footnote explains, the psalm is acrostic, each verse beginning with a successive letter of the Hebrew alphabet. This is the first psalm that is a consistent acrostic. Like other acrostics attributed to David, this does not perfectly follow the acrostic pattern. The verse beginning with W is missing. Okay. The acrostic pattern makes it harder for the poem to have a clear flow of thought, but the notes will show that the poet nevertheless provided one. So, chapter 25. To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. O my God, in you I trust. Let me not be put to shame. Let not my enemies exult over me. Indeed, none who wait for you shall be put to shame. They shall be ashamed who are wantonly treacherous. Make me to know your ways, O Lord. Teach me your paths. Lead me in your truth and teach me. For you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long. Remember your mercy, O Lord, and your steadfast love, for they have been from of old. Remember not the sins of my youth or my transgressions. According to your steadfast love, remember me for the sake of your goodness, O Lord. Good and upright is the Lord. Therefore, he instructs sinners in the way. He leads the humble in what is right and teaches the humble his way. All the paths of the Lord are steadfast love and faithfulness for those who keep his covenant and his testimonies. For your name's sake, O Lord, pardon my guilt, for it is great. Who is the man who fears the Lord? Him will instruct in the way that he should choose. His soul shall abide in well-being, and his offspring shall inherit the land. The friendship of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he makes known to them his covenant. My eyes are ever toward the Lord, for he will pluck my feet out of the net. Turn to me and be gracious to me, for I am lonely and afflicted. The troubles of my heart are enlarged. Bring me out of my distresses. Consider my affliction and my trouble, and forgive all my sins. Consider how many are my foes, and with what violent hatred they hate me. Oh, guard my soul and deliver me. Let me not be put to shame, for I take refuge in you. May integrity and uprightness preserve me, for I wait for you. Redeem Israel, O God, out of all his troubles. Uh, I really love Psalm 25. It does start out verse 2, oh my God, in you I trust. So that there is confidence, but it doesn't end in the confident way that some of the other laments do. But I want to point out two of the verses that I have circled, and these can easily just be turned into prayers. Verse 4, make me to know your ways, O Lord, teach me your paths. That can be something that you pray. And then verse 5, lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long. That is what we should desire, is for the Lord to lead us in truth and for the Lord to teach us. There's so many times that you can be looking at all and there's, I'm not downplaying the resources that we have available to us today, but there's so many times the Lord convicted me of this in my parenting, that there's so many times that you're looking for answers in people, in books which are written by people, um, online resources that are written by people, uh, and you're trying to find truth, you're trying to find answers in those things instead of asking the Lord to show you truth. You're trying to learn things from all these different things that we have available to us online or workshops. And again, I'm not downplaying these things. They all have a place. But if that is where you are doing all of your searching and learning, and you are not seeking the Lord, who is the one who gives us truth, the one who gives us godly wisdom, who is the one who can teach us the right way. If you're leaning on all of those things and you're not leaning on the Lord, there is a problem. So lead me in your truth and teach me. Okay. We want to trust the Lord as our teacher above any other source that we come across. And like I said, the Lord did convict me in my parenting on that. I was online searching and just trying to figure out what I could be doing. And the Lord convicted me and was like, you can't do that anymore. And so I've just been having to do a lot of praying, and through that, he um, and answers. So I just encourage you again. I'm not saying you cannot use resources. I'm just saying when we begin to place those resources of the knowledge that the Lord can give us, there's a big problem. So let's move on to chapter 26. So the summary of this is a variety of settings for Psalm 26 have been suggested, such as a prayer for public exoneration offered by someone seriously or falsely accused of wrongdoing, or perhaps part of an interest liturgy by which pilgrims came into the sanctuary. There is a scant there is scant evidence for any of these, though the latter is helpful because it links the theme with that of Psalms 15 and 24. That is, the psalm mirrors for those who attend worship what the ideal covenant participant should actually look like. Some have taken the claims of innocence here as a kind of self righteous boasting, but this is a mistake. First, the mention of God's steadfast love and faithfulness, found in verse 3, a clear echo of Exodus 34:6, shows that divine grace is the foundation for holy living. Similarly, the references to worship in God's house, and that's found in verses 6 through 8, indicate that the covenantal means of grace which their focus on atonement and forgiveness are in view. And third, singing this psalm serves to enable worshipers more and more to like and embrace the ideal of faithful covenant membership, but it does not make achieving that ideal. Okay, let me read that again. And third, singing this psalm serves to enable worshipers more and more to like and embrace this idea of faithful covenant membership, but it does not make achieving that ideal a precondition for true worship. Okay, so let's go ahead and read chapter 26. I will bless the Lord. This is a psalm of David. Vindicate me, O Lord, for I have walked in my integrity and I have trusted in the Lord without wavering. Prove me, O Lord, and try me. Test my heart and my mind. For your steadfast love is before my eyes, and I walk in your faithfulness. I do not sit with men of falsehood, nor do I consort with hypocrites. I hate the assembly of evildoers, and I will not sit with the wicked. I wash my hands in innocence and go around your altar, O Lord, proclaiming thanksgiving aloud and telling all your wondrous deeds. O Lord, I love the habitation of your house and the place where your glory dwells. Do not sweep my soul away with sinners, nor my life with bloodthirsty men, in whose hands are evil devices, and whose right hands are full of bribes. But as for me, I shall walk in my integrity. Redeem me and be gracious to me. My foot stands on level ground. In the great assembly, I will bless the Lord. So I just want to go through and break down these verses in the different themes. So the first is 1 through 3. And so here we're seeing a prayer for vindication. And I'm just reading from these footnotes. For God to vindicate the worshiper is for God to distinguish between the faithful and the unfaithful. Perhaps there is additional nuance of showing the distinction publicly. Wow. The faithful are those who take the covenant to heart and who, as a general pattern of life, have walked in their integrity and have trusted in the Lord without wavering. They also keep God's steadfast love before their eyes and walk in God's faithfulness. And so those are what you see from someone walking in faithfulness to the Lord. Okay. Verses 4 through 8, this is his claim of innocence. So here the psalm describes some of the features of the faithful. He refuses to join with the unfaithful, who are hypocrites, evildoers, wicked, in their crooked schemes, because he renounces their values and he aims to take part in public worship with moral innocence and with delight. And then verses 9 through 10, he's separating from the bloodthirsty. These verses amplify the prayer for vindication. And it says, to desire to be treated differently than the unfaithful. And then lastly, verses 11 and 12, confidence and commitment. The person who owns this ideal, who determines to walk in his integrity, may be sure of God's continuing care. And so they can have assurance of that. That was good. That was good. I hope it's helpful to hear the summary and just some of the different, I don't know if it's called a theme or just the outline, if you will, of the psalm. That's a better word. All right. And then lastly, we're going to read chapter 27. I like this chapter too. In singing Psalm 27, God's people have a way of not simply expressing confidence in Him, but of cultivating that confidence for the widest range of challenging life situations. The psalm uses several synonyms for enemies, giving it the concrete setting of a faithful person beset by those who would destroy him with bloodthirsty and deceitful means. One who can trust in God in those circumstances can trust Him in other circumstances as well. Tara, we're reading chapter 27. Sorry, I missed your comment earlier. Chapter 27. So this is so true. You know, if you can trust God in some of the darkest times of your life, like you're going to be able to trust Him in other situations as well. And sometimes God allows us to go through very, very difficult things to build our faith and to test our faith. So, chapter 27, verse 1. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When evildoers assail me to eat up my flesh, my adversaries and foes, it is they who stumble and fall. Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war rise against me, yet I will be confident. One thing I have asked of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in His temple. For He will hide me in His shelter in the day of trouble. He will conceal me under the cover of His tent. He will lift me high upon a rock. And now my head shall be lifted up above my enemies all around me. And I will offer in His tent sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing and make melody to the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud. Be gracious to me and answer me. You have said, seek my face. My heart says to you, your face, Lord, do I seek. Hide not your face from me. Turn not your servant away in anger. O you who have been my help, cast me not off. Forsake me not, O God of my salvation. For my father and my mother have forsaken me, but the Lord will take me in. Teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me on a level path because of my enemies. Give me not up to the will of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, and they breathe out violence. I believe that I shall look upon the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. So many great verses in there. Let's break this down according to this outline that they have given us. So the first three verses, this is whom shall I fear? So it's the expression of, that the evil is coming against them. They're being sought after to not just say mean words, but to end their life, right? So it's a very, very, very troubling time. But whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. And so regardless of what's happening, you're trusting in the Lord. Verses 4-6, shelter in His sanctuary. So this is focusing on the house of the Lord, temple, tent, and sacrifices. Show that these verses focus on public worship. They view unhindered access to God's presence in worship as the best of all gifts. This is the place of true delight and true safety, is in a place of worship. Verses 7-12, prayer for continued favor. So those verses point at addressing the Lord directly, making it clear that the deliverance asked for is the purpose of continuing to seek God. And then the last two verses, 13 and 14, this is all about waiting for the Lord. Live in continued confidence, returning to the trust expressed in the first 3 verses. So that wraps up chapter 27. I hope y'all enjoyed reading these 5 chapters today. They were a little shorter, but nonetheless, they were very powerful. Tomorrow, I will not be going live in the morning, but we will still continue reading. So we'll read 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. So 28 through 32, we'll read those independently tomorrow. And then on Friday, we will pick up in chapter 33. And I'm excited because we'll be reading chapter 34 together. And this is taste and see that the Lord is good. It's an expression of thanksgiving. So we'll be reading a psalm of thanksgiving together. We've been reading a lot of like laments, and we've been reading psalms of confidence as well. And we read a few royal hymns together too. But anyways, I'm excited to read that with y'all on Friday. So I will be back here Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. And we'll pick up in chapter 33. So if you want to continue reading through Psalms with me, make sure you do your independent reading tomorrow. We are in the book of Psalms right now. So we're reading through the Old Testament together, but some days we do independent reading, but every day we read about five chapters. So whether we're on here reading 5 chapters or Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, we do independent reading. And so you read about 5 chapters. So hopefully you will join us. On this reading plan, we should read through the rest of the Old Testament this year. So by the end of December, we will have completed the Old Testament. So if that's something that you are interested in doing, feel free to join along. But all right, I hope to see you guys back here on Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. If you are interested in seeing some of the old lives, I do have those. I pinned the comment, testimony and transparency. You can go on the live tab and look at those. So, all right, y'all. I hope y'all have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you back here on Friday. Let me end that. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all back.